All right, let's just jump right in. Think about it for a second. For literally thousands of years, almost every single culture on this planet has had stories about one creature, the dragon. I mean, they're everywhere, right? Carved into ancient temples, painted on these incredible scrolls, they're woven into the very fabric of our oldest myths. So the big question is, where did they actually come from?
So, is it possible they were just art? Was it all just this huge shared feat of human imagination? Maybe our ancestors were just trying to put a face on things they couldn't explain, like the raw, terrifying power of nature.
Or, and this is where it gets really interesting, what if they were recording something real? Not, a fire-breathing monster flying around, but something deeper, something else entirely. And that's the mystery we're going to try and crack today. Okay, so first up, let's tackle the theory most people know. This is the one you probably learned in school. It's the idea that dragons are, at their core, just a really powerful symbol. So in this view, dragons are basically the ultimate piece of art. They're like this primal cocktail of all our biggest fears, think snakes, giant birds of prey, mixed with our greatest fascinations, like flight and just wild, uncontrollable power. They're not real creatures. They're a story we told ourselves about the world to make sense of it. So this really sets up two competing ideas. You've got the artistic myth on one side, the idea that dragons were straight up invented. But then you have this other idea, petrified observation, which suggests that, in a way, they were discovered. And that's the central question we're digging into. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's more to it? Let's dive into that second, kind of more radical idea, the theory that the dragon isn't just a symbol, it's an observation.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. What if the stories we have weren't the start of the process? What if they were the end? What if they were the final piece of the puzzle? Just people trying to make sense of something huge they'd actually seen.
And here's the big twist. The theory isn't that our ancestors saw dragons flying through the sky. No, not at all. It's that they were seeing the evidence of them, evidence that was literally carved into the earth itself. Okay, so if this theory has any legs, there have to be clues, right? Well, it turns out when you actually start looking for them, they're everywhere. What's absolutely wild is how consistent this is all across the globe. You've got the long serpentine lung in East Asia, the feathered Quetzalcoatl in the Americas. We're talking about cultures that had zero contact with each other, and yet they all came up with myths about these enormous reptile-like creatures. Is that just a coincidence, or were they all seeing something similar? And this is where the theory gets really specific. The observation wasn't of a living animal. It was about geology and paleontology. Basically, our ancestors were digging up things and seeing things in the landscape that just blew their minds. Okay, try to picture this. You're an ancient hunter. You're walking through the landscape, and you stumble upon this massive, winding canyon, snaking its way across the earth for miles and miles. You have no concept of geology or erosion. What would you think? It would look exactly like the body of some gigantic sleeping creature, a great earth dragon. You can totally see how a landscape becomes a legend. Or how about this one? An early farmer is out tilling their fields and they dig up a bunch of enormous, weird-looking bones. It's a dinosaur fossil bed, but they don't know about dinosaurs or extinction. What else could they possibly conclude? It had to be the skeleton of some incredible monster, a dragon, killed ages ago. So, where are we now? We've basically got two really powerful explanations on the table. One is all about the incredible power of the human imagination, and the other is about actual physical discoveries people made in the ground. And this goes deeper than just fossils and canyons. It really points towards something you might call a forgotten truth, a time when that line we draw between the real world and the world of myth, well, it was a whole lot blurrier than it is today. And maybe that's the actual answer. Maybe it's not one or the other. What if these incredible discoveries, the canyons, the fossils, what if they were just the spark, the seed of an idea? And then our amazing capacity for imagination and storytelling took that seed and grew it into the legends we know today. So when you think about it that way, those ancient dragon carvings could actually be telling both sides of the story at once. They're a record of a real discovery, a real thing that was found, which was then shaped and transformed by the power of myth into something that has stuck with us for thousands of years. And that really leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending thought. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of our other myths, our gods, our monsters, how many of them didn't start as just made-up stories, but as memories? The collective memory of our ancestors, just trying to make sense of the wild, unexplainable world around them.